It'll be Jason Changel out of the hold of Mesco. Good snap, good hold, and the kick is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope your Tuesday is off to a great start, and welcome to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Thom Brennaman. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, from 10 a.m. to noon. You can join us on YouTube/Chatterbox Sports or on Facebook at Chatterbox Sports. We invite you to subscribe, which many of you are doing, and we very much appreciate it. And hit the notification switch to let you know when we send out our clips in case you miss anything. On social media, we can be found on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thom Brennaman TV. That's Thom Brennaman TV. And as you know, we're available in podcast form. So if you can't watch it, you're driving around, just want to listen to it, out for a run, out for a walk, just sitting around at home, just search Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman wherever you get your podcast. We hope it will be there. All right, here we go. The Bengals have the day off today after starting their preparations yesterday for this Sunday's game in the Big Easy. Cincinnati opens a 1.5-point favorite over New Orleans. The Saints have perhaps the most unique talent in the National Football League in Taysom Hill. The former quarterback, turned running back, turned tight end this year, had one of the most incredible performances by a player in league history 2 days ago. He became just the third player since the merger, that's going all the way back to 1970, to rush for 100 yards, run for 3 touchdowns, and throw for a touchdown in a single game. Somebody got hurt, so he returned kickoffs. He even recovered a fumble on special teams. One further note, Andy Dalton may start at quarterback for the Saints this Sunday. The longtime Bengal has started the last 2 games in place of the injured Jameis Winston. He won one, that was last week against Seattle, where they scored 39, and lost one against Minnesota. Monday Night Football, we're going to get into this in detail in the 11 o'clock hour. AFC West showdown last night in Kansas City. The Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Travis Kelce, the UC alum, pride of Cleveland, Ohio, he scores 4 touchdowns. So we're going to get into that, considering that he had 7 receptions for 25 yards in the game. He had 4 touchdowns, 2 of them from the 1-yard line. But the key takeaway here is the final was 30-29. The Raiders, with 4.5 minutes to go, looked to the analytics sheet, which apparently told them, don't go for the tie with 4.5 to go. Go for the win with 4.5 to go. They made that decision. They failed on a 2-point conversion try on a run with Jacobs, and they lose by 1. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail as the day goes on. You know by now, because it happened yesterday during our show, the Panthers say adios to Matt Rule, their head coach, after a 1-4 start. He is only 3 years into a 7-year, $62 million contract. And by the way, in addition, it was close to a $7 million buyout to Baylor from the Panthers to get Rule to leave the college ranks and come in the pro ranks. Steve Wilkes, who you may remember, was a former head coach in Arizona, takes over on an interim basis. Makes you shake your head. It's one thing when the writers do it. It's another thing when the coaches do it. But despite the fact that Ohio State has clearly, and this isn't even debatable, like them or hate them, They have clearly looked like the best team in college football through the first 6 weeks. Yet the coaches poll comes out yesterday, and they are firmly behind both Alabama and Georgia. I don't know what anybody's watching, and that's not coming from an Ohio State fan. Everybody else who just watches a game, including Joel Klatt, who calls football in all the big conferences. He watches every game. I think he's the best college football analyst out there, right there neck and neck with Herb Street. He says it's not even debatable, and it's only through 6 weeks. But that's a deal. UC, by the way, is 21. Kentucky is at 22. The Major League Baseball Division Series get underway tonight. Last round, it was the best of 3. Now we go to best of 5. You have Cleveland going to Yankee Stadium to take on the Yanks. You have Seattle against the top seed Houston Astros led by Dusty Baker, who is without a doubt a Hall of Fame manager, but does not have a World Series title to his credit. In the National League, it's Philadelphia in Atlanta. 3 teams from that National League East made the playoffs this year. And it's San Diego against the top seed Los Angeles Dodgers. We told you yesterday the Dodgers and Padres met 19 times during the regular season playing in the same division. The Dodgers won 14 of the 19 games. But this is the playoffs. Nobody gave San Diego much of a chance in the opening round against the Mets with Scherzer and DeGrom, et cetera, and the Padres took it to them. Good morning, gentlemen, to Casey McAllister. Paul Fritzner, nice to have you here today, my man. Brandon's sitting here. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but nice to have you here.
Tom, great to see you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. You guys all right?
Fantastic.
Yeah? Good. You know, I'm going to ask to pick your guys' brains in the 11 o'clock hour, because coming up here in about 4 minutes, we have James Rapine from Sports Illustrated, everything covering the Bengals, to talk about what happened the other night. I know that Brandon was sharing with us. He was listening to James' podcast coming in today, talking about should Zach Taylor give up the play calling. That's what everyone was talking about late Sunday night, all day yesterday, Monday. He was asked about it yesterday, he being Taylor. So we'll talk more about that with James Rapine. Coming up a little bit later on, we'll have our NFL insider, former Super Bowl winning head coach Brian Billick, and he will talk about the decisions made by the Bengals, that sequence in the third quarter. You know what I'm talking about. 1st and goal from a 2, and the decisions that were made in terms of play calling at that point in time. And by the way, I've heard from some of you, and I love the fact that you're listening or watching. But look, you're accusing me that I can't be a fan if we, not me, all of us here on the show, question the play call. Of course you can be a fan. Okay? It's no different than being a fan of a presidential candidate. Okay? Whoever it is. I don't care who it is. You can be a fan and a voter for a presidential candidate, but when that person makes decisions, you're allowed to question those decisions. I'm a Bengals fan, but it's our job to sit around here and talk about the team, about players, about decisions that are made, in this case by the coach, and that's what we're doing here, is to just get it out there and lay all the cards on the table. So Tracy Jones is coming up at 11:30. That's must-see. Podcast, TV, streaming, whatever it is. He's going to be joining us from Mexico. Is James ready to go?
No, he's not popped in yet.
All right. So, fellas, I want to ask you guys, though, in the 11 o'clock hour, we're going to try and walk through, and it happened so late, we were unable to get a quote-unquote analytics person on today, but we're certainly going to try and do that here sometime soon. Because, look, I don't have all the answers. You guys don't have all the answers. But I just want to walk through what little or a lot that you guys know about analytics. I kept hearing Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, who I think is the best pair broadcasting the NFL today, and they have been for many, many years, kept making reference to the analytics light is on green. So that means we're going here. That's fine. But I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on this decision. And we had the Harbaugh decision 2 weeks ago. We've had some others. Go back to week 1. Now, a little bit different situation week 1, where Daboll, the coach of the Giants, the last play of the game, time had expired. They decided they were going for 2 in the win in Tennessee. They went for it. They got it. But this one occurred last night with 4.5 minutes left in the game. Were you guys surprised they did that?
I wasn't surprised. That's just feels like the narrative and the way that the NFL has shifted now in football, that you just feel like it's a better option to go for it, and especially on the road at Arrowhead, to go for it and try and win the game. But the reason that I took a little bit of exception to it was because there was more time on the clock than there generally is when you feel like, okay, we're going to go ahead and win the game on the road. Sometimes when you see that decision, it's with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left and you don't have all 3 timeouts, but you might have the 2-minute warning. But you're talking about a situation now where you had about 4 minutes left in the game. You can easily go get a stop if you need to. And I thought, Tom, you made a good point before we went on the air today where you said Josh McDaniels after the game was talking about how we didn't feel like we could get a stop. Well, if you didn't feel like you could get a stop and it's a tie game or you're down by 1 anyway, then it doesn't really make all that much of a difference.
And that's what I want to get into, specifically that, which you concisely said much better than I did, is that decision. Now, well, again, we're going to do this at 11 o'clock. I don't want this to bleed too much into James Rapine coming on, because I'm sure he'll be with us any minute now. He's due on in 1 minute. And we'll talk about that. Are you guys, you want to take a break first?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a break first, and then we'll come back with James Rapine to talk about the Bengals. You're watching Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time, and if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell's Heating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Sweeney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Sweeney, the original used car superstore.
The time is now. Football season is back here in the Queen City, and Week 1, St. X versus Lakota West. DJ Train here with Chatterbox. It's about to go down. It's our kickoff of our official tour. Every Friday night you'll see us. Let's go. It's on 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Man, I'm telling you, this game is going to come down to the first guy that says I've had enough. That's all it's going to take. One guy to say, you know what, I've had enough.
game, bro?
My first one. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better first one because Coda West struggling a lot throughout the first half and beginning of second half, and then
Big time.
it's a party.
I know one thing. Ain't nobody does this better than us. Facts.
Yeah, this atmosphere was insane. Show was on point. Everybody had a great time for the first one, too, bringing people together. Big shout out to everybody tonight that worked hard from Chatterbox and everywhere else to put on a great show.
This dude's legit.
And he's sweating, so you know he's legit.
All right, welcome back to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. It has been a long 48 hours for our buddy James Rapine, everything covering the Bengals. It's great to have him with us here every single week. We appreciate his time. James, good morning. I'm not so sure, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm not so sure you have had so much to try and think about, ask about, talk about, write about, digest as you did from that game on Sunday night. Is that a fair statement?
There's a lot for sure. I never say never. I think there's been plenty of times where there's a lot to digest over the past couple of years. But yeah, especially with this offense, there's a lot, and there's a lot of people that share some blame in the Bengals being what they are through 5 weeks, which is one of the worst offenses in the NFL. I think that's fair to say.
All right, where does that start?
Well, I think it starts, coach and quarterback, and that's the league you're in right now. The best coaches, the best quarterbacks, the best duos in those areas, they win. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, right? So that's the example. That's the blueprint. But you could go on and on with examples of that. And this offense has not been able to figure out cover two, has not been able to figure out this Tampa 2. And, one thing that stands out about what Joe Burrow said after the game is, well, if they play like that, we can't get the ball down the field. And that's stuck with me since then. Because if you think back to the 06-07 Bengals, and that's way back, and half of your viewers probably don't remember it, but I remember Carson and Chad and guys like that, the offensive coordinator at the time, all these guys talking about, well, if they're playing this way, we got to do this. And at some point, you just got to say, we don't care how they're playing. We're going to do what makes us great. And everyone's talking about the explosive plays, and that sounds good. But the other thing that this offense didn't have the other night, is intermediate passes, 11 to 20 yards. And I think that's as big of an issue as anything. They don't have those chunk plays that get drives going, that get defenses back on their heels. And so people have talked about the run game or the offensive line or the explosive plays. What about the intermediate passes in the 11 to 20 yard range? I think that's something they really need to find. And that's the type of play that hurts these cover two defenses that teams are using to keep them from, going downfield and going deep and having these explosive plays.
James, if you look at the first 5 games this year, you look at the postseason last year, and then you back up, what would that be? Postseason was 4 games last year. You got 5, 9. Okay, so say the final 8 games of the regular season last year. So over the course of what would be a full season, 17 weeks, 16 weeks, right? When you go back and start digging in some of those numbers, minus the game against Baltimore, the second game against Baltimore, when they put up the 500 yards of offense and all that kind of thing. The numbers of this offense are not impressive in any form or fashion. I wonder, and you tell me if I'm wondering incorrectly here, I wonder if maybe this offense has not been overrated from the very start of this season.
I wouldn't say that by any stretch, really, because if you're saying that, then to me, you're saying that Joe Burrow isn't, this top 5 quarterback, or Jamar Chase isn't one of the best receivers in the NFL, or insert whatever you want to say, Mixon, Higgins, Boyd. Now, they aren't operating like it right now, but I certainly think they have the talent and the ceiling to be that. The postseason run was unique because they couldn't block, and that's why the offense was so limited, and they really had to scratch and claw to get through the postseason and make that run that they did. And the struggles this year, I certainly didn't see coming. I didn't anticipate them, averaging 21.6 points per game. It's about 5 points off of what they averaged last year. But I still think they can get there. They got off to a slow start last year, and a lot of people chopped it up to Burrow's knee and coming back from that. But he doesn't look right. Completely right because I think because of this cover two, he's just not seeing the field as well as you'd want him to. This offense isn't producing the way you'd want it to. T. Higgins has been dinged up, but they should still be good even without T, to be quite honest. And so, could you say that right now? Sure, because they've underperformed, but I'm not willing to go there yet because there's a lot of season left. And I believe in their talent. I'm not betting against Burrow at this stage. I think he's going to figure it out and put up huge numbers. I believe in Jamar Chase. I think that the talent on this team is really good. And I also think that Zach Taylor, Brian Callahan, I think they are smart enough to figure it out, but they got to figure it out fast because they're 2-3 and the season can get away from you pretty quickly.
Well, you get a lot of debate on from a lot of people right now about how sharp they think Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan are, but that's neither here. Well, no, it is here. It's here and now.
Let's talk
because
about it. Yeah.
Look, let's get to the Tampa 2 thing. I mean, look, you can go back to Monty Kiffin on this stuff with the Tampa 2 and Tony Dungy and all these guys, right, that started playing this 1,000 years ago, James, before you were born. Not before I was born, but before you were born. All right, I was announcing in the league then, so it shows you how old I am. But, I mean, look, this is nothing new. I mean, if you are a coach or a play caller or an offensive coordinator, this isn't like some all-of-a-sudden thing that just showed up 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, and now you're scratching your head trying to figure it out, right?
100% right. And the thing about it, the thing that to me is so baffling is everyone knew it was coming. Everyone, like you talk to anyone in the league, anybody, not just with the Bengals, and they knew it too, of course. It was, oh yeah, they're going to see a lot of two deep. There's going to be these two deep shells, and teams are going to take away the deep ball this year, and they're going to make them go underneath. And look, I think defenses have been really good at disguising it, making it different, making it tough. And giving Burrow in this offense multiple looks. But at some point, you have to solve the riddle and consistently solve it. And we saw flashes against Miami. They were really good against cover 2, but there weren't enough. And even then, the offense, they had some explosives that hid what was a lot of lulls in their offense. But it's one of two things. Either be consistent on offense or have the explosives to make up for it. And they're not doing either right now because they weren't that consistent on offense last year, but they had the explosives.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, including myself, chalked it up to the offensive line. I thought the offensive line was pretty good on Sunday night. I didn't think that's why they lost. I think you take that performance any day. And so it was really all of the other things. And so you're right. Everyone saw this coming. The Bengals knew it was coming. And for whatever reason, they haven't been able to solve it. And they better solve it starting Sunday in New Orleans because teams are just going to continue to do it. And if you watched the Saints, they put up a ton of points on the Seahawks. But guess what? Geno Smith and the Seahawks scored 32 on the Saints. So you should be able to score against this New Orleans defense.
I want to get to the sequence that everybody's talking about of 1st and goal from a 2.
Yeah.
And the play calling that ensued from there. I'm sitting there watching last night the Kansas City game, and I made the point before you came on the air. When you play the Kansas City Chiefs, and I heard Josh McDaniels say it before the game when he was interviewed last night, our goal is to take away Travis Kelce. Okay, Tyreek Hill's not there anymore. They have some other nice offensive players. There's no doubt about it. Great quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. But they said that's the goal. Kelce has 7 catches in the game for a total of 25 yards. So by all accounts, you would say if you just looked at that stat without going any further down the stat sheet, that they did an incredible job on Travis Kelce. Okay?
Yep.
But he is the focal point of the Kansas City passing game. No doubt about it. It starts with him. He scores 4 touchdowns all inside the 8-yard line, 2 of them from the 1-yard line. So when you take something like that into account, what went on with the play calling there for the Bengals at the 2-yard line on 1st and goal that they can't put the ball in the hands of somebody who is a playmaker or an alleged playmaker in this offense?
Well, they got too cute. I had no problem with the first down play to Hurst. Probably is a touchdown if he doesn't get held, and got held. He was mad about it. They didn't call it. Okay, so you move to 2nd down. You get super cute with the Philly special, and it just blows up in your face. And it's a great play, by Marlon Humphrey or no, Marcus Peters or whoever it was one of the corners.
Yeah. Peters.
All right. So the 3rd down play is the one good play on this in this sequence. And guess why? Because they targeted their stud, because they went to Jamar Chase, and heck, he almost made up for it and got in the end zone. He gets down to the 2, and then you run a play for Stanley Morgan. And I like Stanley Morgan Jr., but that is not – it just doesn't feel like that's the time. And the shovel pass idea, I hate the shovel pass. They've ran it multiple times this year. Zach pointed that out yesterday. I don't care. And I know it worked for Tyler Boyd, but it didn't because there was a holding against the Jets, a holding penalty on their first drive. So it didn't work, right? So they haven't had success with it this year. And it was just a bad decision there. I go with my studs. And your stud is Joe Burrow. And whether that's rolling him out or putting Chase in a one-on-one situation and asking him to go in on 4th down, or it is finding a way to get the ball to Joe Mixon. Although short yardage running, I'm not going to riot, even though they had been running the ball well by their standards on Sunday. I'm not going to riot because they didn't give the ball to Joe Mixon on 4th and goal from the 2, because they've been bad in those situations for the past year and 4.5 games. But always go with your studs. And they didn't. A shovel pass to Stanley Morgan Jr. Again, not about Stanley. Even if it had been to Tyler Boyd or insert whoever else. I don't like the call there. So the Philly special, the shovel pass, both too cute for me. And those are the 2 plays that stand out. And, man, getting 7 there, it would have completely changed the vibe and the feel of the game. Getting 0 there, that's an issue. And there's a lot of people that say kick the field goal there. It depends. If it's target Jamar Chase and finding a way to get him one-on-one, I like that better than kicking the field goal. If it's shovel pass, I'm kicking the field goal 100% of the time. And obviously the Bengals elected not to do that.
I mean, I had no problem, and the one thing we try not to do on this show, and I've tried not to do it my whole career broadcasting anything, I don't like second guessing. I like first guessing. If you're a person that can say, okay, I think they should go for it here, as they're sitting there making the decision, don't come back later and say, okay, they should have kicked the field goal. Your point is valid about the 4th down play call. Do you think – I said yesterday, no chance. No how, no way unless it's mandated from above. Do you think there's any chance Zach Taylor gives up play calling?
No. Nope. And look, this has been a topic on and off for the past 3 years and 5 games, right? Would it be better if Zach was just managing the team, and would he be better situationally and all of those things if he was just the head coach and Brian Callahan was the play caller? The thing that, one, I'll point out is the fact that Brian Callahan and Dan Pitcher and this offensive staff, it's a collective effort. It is not, Zach does not run a dictatorship from that perspective. Not that he doesn't have the final say. Of course he does. He's the head coach. But the game plan to insert the shovel pass, they all looked at that. And so that was in the game plan. And it might not have been the play that they were for sure going to on 4th and short when they needed it or on the goal line when they needed it. But it was one of the 3 or 4 plays that everyone signed off on to put in there. And so that's the part of it where it's like, and Zach made this point yesterday, it's a collective effort. So whether I'm calling the plays or Brian's calling the plays, odds are a lot of it's going to be the same. And the other thing is, if you look historically, very rarely does changing the play caller change much. And it's more of an act of desperation for a coach that's on the hot seat. And so I'm not there yet. You know what I am, though? They all together have to get a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
And it certainly starts with Zach, but they all have to be better and find a way to get more production out of this offense. And however they need to do that, whatever it is, it's their job to find it. I'm not going to say – I could easily say, oh, well, run more plays to Jamar Chase or do this or do that. Not my job. All I know is 21.6 points per game is way too low. That's what an offense that doesn't have Jamar Chase or T. Higgins or Joe Burrow or Joe Mixon, that's what they should be putting up, not an offense that has those guys.
We talked about when Burrow came out after the Miami game and was just, effusive in his praise of the offensive line. It's the best they've ever played. And I had windows to look around, all that kind of stuff. And we came back on the show and said the next day, which is a big duh, that the offensive line is judged by, yes, pass protection. They give up 13 sacks the first 2 weeks. They have given up, 2 1-1, I think, in subsequent weeks. So that's been considerably better. The other part is how well you run it. They did not run it well until the other night, where they ran it very, very well. If you take out the 1 carry by Jamar Chase, the 3 carries by Burrow, Mixon and Pirine ran the ball very, very well. And so, hopefully that's trending in the right direction, because I thought Mixon looked good the other night, really good the other night. I asked a question yesterday, and you're around him every single day. And whether it's a little exchange over there with Collins after the 4th down shovel pass, and, I guess he blew an assignment, hearing your stuff and reading other stuff, that's fine. But you go back to Mixon last year, right, in the Super Bowl, where 3rd in a yard, 4th in a yard. This guy's not even on the field, nor was he the other night. Do you sense that some of the players at all yet are looking around going, what's happening here?
No, I don't. And that doesn't mean that won't happen. And I think that's why you better get it changed quick, because the difference between last year and this year is the expectations. It is the fact that they're thinking about rings and winning division championships. And it's a realistic thing that they've done and seen. And so now you expect to do it. You've done it once, guess what? You expect to do it again, especially because this team, I think, is more talented than last year's team. So nothing yet, but it happens. It happens in any field eventually if you continue to struggle and hover around 500 and, win and lose. And so you look at this stretch now where you have the Saints and the Falcons and the Browns and, all the Panthers are up, and then the Steelers. This is a 5-game stretch against teams that you should be better than. And I know it's tough in Cleveland and you might not have DJ Reed or all that. It doesn't matter. They have to make up some ground here and kind of separate themselves from the mediocre. Because if you go into, the bye, hovering around 500, that's just, it's going to be tough. The back half of that schedule is really, really tough. And you're going to be playing a lot of good teams that are battling for the 1 seed in their respective conferences. So they need to get it straightened out quickly, or I do think that's what's going to happen. Some finger pointing, some questioning, some, chatter. It's not there yet. They're a strong-willed locker room. They're resilient. That's why they went down and scored. I really didn't have a doubt the other day, by the way, when they got the ball, midway through the 4th quarter, that they'd go down and take the lead. And I turned to Mike Petraglia, one of my colleagues, CLNS, and I was like, look, Mike, they're going to lose 19-17. They're going to go score here, but there's too much time. And that's exactly what happened. And when there's Justin Tucker on the other side, it's tough because you know what your fate's going to be if you give up those yards.
I wonder when you're sitting in there, and I'd love to be able to get down there, but he has him at a time where I can't, and we're doing this show because, being so heavily critical as I have been of Taylor, I'd love to be able to get down there and just show my face. But right now that's not going to happen. Maybe there's some other time to do it. But are you – when he's asked questions about these very particular decisions, from when I watch and listen to the press conferences, it strikes me, and I think you guys down there, you guys being the media, have been very, very fair, and in these last few weeks have really challenged him on some of this stuff. but it never seems like you get a straight answer on it, or at least an answer with any kind of depth to it. Something like, well, we're learning from it. And look, I'm all open to everybody learning as we go through life in every area of our lives. That's fine. But does he ever say anything that has some depth to it in answering some of these questions?
There's little nuggets and morsels, but I think Zach, one thing he has learned is to coach speak better and improve on that throughout his years as the head coach of the Bengals. So if you look back at 2019 versus the way he is now, or 2020 versus the way he is now, he's just been tested more and learned what to say, what not to say, and how to dress up certain things. So I'm not shocked by that. It's part of his job. It's our job to ask tough questions, not necessarily the ones fans want us to ask or how they want us to ask them, because people are like, oh, why are you still the play caller? Well, we're not going to go in there and do it that way. That's just not how it works. But
you know what, James, on that note, I don't mean to interrupt you, but explain that, because, I think that's exactly what a lot of fans would like someone that's sitting in that room to ask him. But any of us who have been in that position where you're working with someone on a daily basis, and let's face it, you need him to, a lesser or larger extent, depending on who the person is, you do need to have some kind of a relationship with the guy. So you can't just go in there, you correct me if I'm wrong, and start hammering away and peppering him with questions that maybe he doesn't like. Is that fair to say?
Well, I don't think of it from that perspective necessarily, of whether Zach likes me, and I'll speak for me, or not. But it's about asking it in a way where you're actually going to get something useful and try to get a straight answer. And so if you just go in there and say, why are you still the play caller? Well, you're going to get a 2-word answer.
Right.
And guess what? You're not going to be able to use it on anything.
Yeah.
Unless he just rips you, which that's not his style. And so if that's the plan, well, good luck. I think that's the part of it. The goal is to get answers. And so how you ask the question, right? Just like with this, the way you're asking me questions is you're trying to get answers and get my thoughts on things. And so you do it in a way where you think you're going to get better answers. And it's not much different there. Now, you're right. You don't want to be just confrontational every week, just because. And by the way, if, the other part of it is he thought that was the best play in the moment. And one thing Zach has admitted throughout his time in Cincinnati is when he thinks he got it wrong, and in hindsight, he would take it back. And so I think he's done a good job of, being honest about that in certain situations, including earlier this year. But yeah, there is a balance there, and it's not about him liking you necessarily. It's about getting the best answers and the most honest answers in the moment.
Okay, turning the page real quick, and we'll let you get out of here because I know you're busy. The New Orleans Saints, T. Higgins went out and warmed up before the game. They kept him active for the game. He gave it a go. God bless him, but it didn't work out. Do you suspect that he's okay, and where are we with Jonah Williams, who left the game, put on the brace, came back and played? Give the guy a lot of credit for that. That's a gamer in my book. Those two and anybody else the team needs to be concerned about with a number of days before the New Orleans game.
It's going to be tough for both guys in my eyes. T. Higgins was trying, but just thinking back to the Friday after the Dolphins game, he was limping pretty severely on that left ankle. And I watched him go through warmups on Sunday, and I thought he was okay. I thought it would be fine, but there's a difference between going through warmups and then really having to cut and plant and stop and start and all of the things that come with playing receiver at a high level in this league. And I don't think he was ready for that. So we'll see on him. I don't anticipate him practicing a ton this week. I think they'll try to rest it, give him treatment, and see if they can get him as close to 100% as possible so he can go. With Jonah, the MCL is tough. That's a real tough one to come back from. And it's not that it's something that he can't play through eventually, and you want that knee to be stabilized, but it's basically that your knees are pointing together. It's the muscle right here inside your knee. And And so it's really easy to tweak it. It's real easy for your knee to feel a little flimsy, and I'm sure it's really, really sore today. I've done that a couple of times, and I'm not playing in the league, of course, and I'm not 300 pounds and trying to block these guys. So we'll see on him. I don't think it'll be an IR type of situation necessarily, but if it's any sort of grade 2 or anything like that, I think it's kind of hard for him to play this week and going to be tough. But if it's just a real minor thing where it's sore, but they can get him treatment and brace it up, I think he's got a shot to play. It just depends on the severity of how bad he tore it. Because I'm sure any sprain, MCL sprain, there's slight tears in there, and it just depends on how many there are.
All right, James, we thank you for your in-depth analysis, and it's the best there is out there of these Cincinnati Bengals. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great week, and we'll catch up again sometime next week. Thanks a lot for your time.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Tom.
All right, James Rapine. I mean, this guy is completely dialed in. I mean, if you just follow this guy, and he had the video of T. Higgins the other day warming up down in the field that he just talked about. He knows everything going on down there. I'll tell you one thing, one guy, and I wanted to ask him, but I know we had kept him for a while. I'm watching the Raiders game last night, and they're running the ball like crazy, right? Jacobs is having a monster game, and there wasn't a single running back through the first 4 weeks of the season that had rushed for more than 60 yards against Kansas City. And, I mean, they are blowing holes open last night. And they kept putting in this rookie, Thayer Munford Jr. Now, this guy started for 3 years at Ohio State on their offensive line. Okay? I mean, pretty good team, right? Pretty big-time program. He doesn't go till the 7th round in the NFL draft. Why? I have no idea. But I went back and started digging around a little bit last night and watching. They'd bring him in as an extra offensive lineman. He's killing people, right? Busting open holes as the extra offensive lineman, getting through the first layer and blowing up linebackers and all this stuff last night. And I'm thinking to myself, a 7th-round pick. So I start digging around a little bit. He started 3 games this year. He started at right tackle. He was the highest-rated rookie offensive lineman in the NFL for 2 weeks in a row, stepping in. Now, I know they have a former Ohio State. I'm assuming it'd be Isaiah Prince, right? Who starts at left tackle if Jonah Williams can't go?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I mean, Prince has taken his lumps. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I just sit there and I say to myself, well, this guy's right up the road. He was a 238th pick in the draft, and he's starting in the NFL? I mean, why don't you take a 5th or 6th round pick on a guy like that if for no other reason than he was a 3-year starter at a major, major powerhouse school? I mean, the same thing can be said for somebody at Alabama or at Georgia or at Clemson. You know, of course, they thought that about Jackson Carman, too, and that didn't work out so good.
Yeah, I mean, for the Bengals' perspective, I mean, they did address the other guard position with Volson, and he struggled a bit early, but he played like Cam Hayward. You know, he played really tough defensive lines. He's been pretty good. He's been pretty decent since then, especially this last Sunday. He played pretty well against the Ravens. I mean, we already talked about how they were blowing open holes for Mixon and for P. Ryan. So, I mean, I do get what you're saying, though. Like, why couldn't we just take a flyer on him? I can't even remember what our 7th-round pick was.
I don't either. And I'm not suggesting that anybody else would remember that Munford was a 7th-round pick. And the only reason I went back and looked at it is because I'm watching him on TV last night. And they say, oh, that's Munford. And I'm like, oh, is that the guy from Ohio State that was here earlier? So I start digging around and look it up. And I'm thinking, oh, well. I mean, if you're not happy with Isaiah Prince, well, they addressed the right tackle situation in free agency. And look, all this is hindsight 20. I'm not even going to get into it anymore. It's a waste of time. All right, when we come back, we are going to talk a lot about this stuff with Brian Billick, about some of the decisions made by Zach Taylor the other night. When you're a head coach and you're standing there on the sideline, we're going to ask him, what's sort of the noise in the headset? You got offensive coordinator. Brian Billick was a play caller. When he was in Minnesota as offensive coordinator, they broke every record known to man for yards and points and all this kind of stuff. Randy Moss and Chris Carter and that whole group. And then, of course, he went on to Baltimore where they won a Super Bowl. And he didn't have some great offensive players. And yet they still won a Super Bowl because of a great defense and a good enough offense. Well, this Bengals defense is not the Ravens defense of old, but it's good enough to be winning games, and they're not winning games. So we're going to talk to him about that and about some of the other things going on in the NFL. When we come back, it's Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time, and if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell's Heating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Sweeney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Sweeney, the original used car superstore.
I know one thing. Ain't nobody does this better than us. Facts.
All right, welcome back to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We are grateful, appreciative, and fortunate to have our NFL insider, former Super Bowl winning head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, Brian Billick. Coach, hope you're doing well. And look, we got to get right to it here. I know you watched the Sunday night game. I don't know if you stayed up for the whole thing. Here in Cincinnati, people, all of us collectively, me included, are just losing our minds over the play calling, first and goal from the 2 in the third quarter. Now, I have to ask you, and I'm not going to sit here and ask you to second guess or first guess, maybe as you were watching, but walk me through when the head coach is a play caller, and there are other people that can hear what the call is going to be. On a night where you're running the ball really well for the first time all year long, and you decide you're going to run a double reverse with the wide receiver throwing a pass on second down and goal from a 2, is there ever a time where somebody, sort of jumps on the headset and says, Coach, and I'm being serious when I ask you this question, is there ever a time where somebody who's not the head coach would jump in and say, is this really what we want to do here? Or can the quarterback ever kind of say, is this really what we're doing here?
Yeah, kind of like a good catcher with a pitcher, just, wave him, or a pitcher can wave off the catcher. I guess there should be. I can't imagine that circumstance. I mean, for a head coach that would, hey, guys, anytime it really sounds like I'm going to do something stupid, you just chime in and you let me know. I mean, this is the type of thing, I'm sure, when you have that kind of play in, and we talk about it all the time. It's always viewed through the prism of whether it works or doesn't work. If it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't, you're the village idiot. That type of play there, the fact that it didn't work, it's really easy to look at and go, I don't know that you should have thought of that in the first place. But understand, this play was after looking at film, was discussed among the coaches, decided what they want to do. This is one of the options you were going to have there. It's on the play sheet all week long. You've practiced it at least a couple times in the course of practice. So it's been there. And if there was ever a time for someone to say, boy, do we really want to think about this play in that situation? It would be then, not on game day. So, that's a tough one there, to run that deep. You don't see that often. And there are a lot of things that can go wrong with that. And, again, if I got Joe Burrow, who do I want throwing the ball? The wide receiver or Joe Burrow? I think I'd stick with Joe Burrow.
Well, and Brian, I think you can move forward 2 more plays in the sequence where I had no problem at all, and I said this, I didn't like the decision made by Harbaugh the week before. I had no problem with Zach Taylor going forward on 4th down. But here you have an offense that, as I just mentioned, for the first time all year long, they're running it. Mixon is averaging almost 6 yards a carry. P. Ryan's averaging 6 yards a carry. They only run the ball with those 2 guys a total of 19 times in the game, and they throw it 35. But that's for a different discussion at a later time. But on 4th and goal from the 2, they decide to run a shovel pass to a guy who has not touched the ball on offense the entire season in Stanley Morgan. You've got Mixon. You've got Chase. You've got Tyler Boyd. You've got Hayden Hurst, who all of a sudden is really starting to evolve in this offense. Do players start to question a coach when the 2nd down play is called and then the 4th down play in this case is called? Do players start looking around based on your experience and say, what the hell's going on around here?
Yeah, particularly if it doesn't work. Players are the first to jump on the bench and say, hey, I confess he did it. They're always going to be looking for an excuse to why things didn't turn out well. A shuffle pass down there is not – that's a little bit different than reverse because of the upfield charge and the way he probably had some options as he came out to either shuffle it or go to the outside. It's not a bad call. It's a play that you see a lot. So in all these situations, you can always second guess what it is you're doing, and is there better ways? Is there more straightforward? If as well as they were running the ball and they'd have just on 1st down, pound, 2nd down, 3rd down, and not gotten it, would be we'd out going, what are you thinking running the ball 3 straight times? Why can't you? So there's always, it's interesting. Goal line calls are interesting because defensively it's binary. You're either all out to stop the rush, or you're more passive and you're expecting a pass. It's one or the other because you can't. And if you're in there to stop the rush and you throw a pass, you look silly because 3 guys are open. And if you're a little backed off thinking, okay, we think they're going to throw here, and you run the ball, then you run it right down your throat. But on the goal line, because of where it is, it's all or nothing. And so it's a 50-50 proposition. If you happen to be running it when they're passive, you're going to score. If you happen to be running it when they're shoving everybody up into the gap, it's going to be tougher. So, but all in all, I think the Bengals played a really good game on the road. I mean, they like you said, they ran the ball very well. They kept the Ravens from dominating the time of possession, which the Ravens are obviously known to do with that offense. They actually had the ball more than to the Ravens. And what a huge advantage for the Ravens. Under the radar to a degree, everybody knows he's the best kicker in the NFL. But to know in your back pocket, if I need it, I don't have to go to length of field to score a game if all I need is a field goal. If I can just get to the 40 or 45, I can win this game. What a huge, huge asset Tucker is for the Ravens.
I want to ask you about a couple of teams. Are you buying or selling? Let's start with the Giants. They go to London and they beat Green Bay 27-22. They outscore the Packers 17-2 in the second half. Are you buying the Giants?
I think you have to, because we talked about the last couple of weeks, the way they're running the ball. They ran the ball very, very well, more than 125 yards on, and they stuck with it with 30 carries. Green Bay, compared to last week, didn't run the ball as well. And Aaron Rodgers was, typical and throwing it around and with 2 touchdowns. But Daniel Jones, 21-27. I mean, he can afford to be very prudent about what he does and very judicious when you're running the ball the way they are, and they're playing really, really good defense. So, yeah, I don't think there's any question that the Giants, they're going to be there at the end of the day. We'll see. But right now, I mean, we're a quarter way of the season. It's a pretty good indicator. We're past the early, offenses struggle a little bit early, and you're coming out of training camp, and how good are you really? I think we're past that point. I think the Giants certainly deserve to be looked at as real.
And that'll be maybe the most interesting game of the weekend. Baltimore goes to New York to play the Giants this coming Sunday. In Dallas, you and I know Dallas. Dak Prescott starts the opener. They look terrible on offense. He's still Dak Prescott. He breaks his thumb. In comes Cooper Rush. They've ripped off a 4-game win streak. Defense is unbelievable. I'm not going to ask you if there's a quarterback controversy, but is there a quarterback controversy brewing in Dallas?
I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Right.
When you're winning and you're playing as well as they are behind this quarterback. And now, again, he only threw the ball 16 times. They had 160 yards rushing. And so I don't think any of us is ready to stand and say, okay, let's think about this guy as the Hall of Famer. This is also, remember how Tony Romo kind of started out, and all of a sudden got going and came in and took advantage of his opportunity. No, I don't think there's going to be a quarterback controversy yet. But the longer this goes, and if they continue to win, you always kind of go, well, do we really want to jinx this? Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Rush is right now. But this young man's building a little bit of a resume. So fortunately, they don't have to deal with it right now, and it'll probably take care of itself. But if they continue their winning ways, yeah, particularly it being the Dallas Cowboys and all that goes on with it being the Dallas Cowboys, they're going to say, no, we don't have a quarterback controversy here. Well, you don't have a say in it because the fans and we're going to make one of it.
Last thing I want to ask you about is the decision by Brandon Staley with the Chargers on Sunday. They have the ball at their own 46-yard line. Cleveland is out of timeouts. The Chargers lead the game with 1 minute and 14 seconds left, and he decides to go for it on 4th down, doesn't get it. Cleveland gets the ball back. They miss the field goal, and the Chargers hang on and win the game. When you were watching that, you thought what?
Well, the chance to goes a little bit back to the Harbaugh decision last week we talked about, that you can close this thing out if you want to be aggressive enough. It's something that you do on a regular basis. You obviously have a game plan for it. You have confidence in the style that you're playing. That's all part of it, particularly when you're on the road. Again, these are conversations and these are decisions that you make during the course of the week with the staff, whether, end of the game, are we going to go for 2? How aggressive are we going to be on 4th down? not the least of which is you're on the road. And those decisions might be different if you're at home than if you're on the road. But the ability to say, okay, we're going to be a little more aggressive here. Cleveland, obviously, early on looked really, really good, and was moving the ball, and then the defense stiffened up a little bit, and the Chargers came back a little bit. But that may have been in part of his mind too, going, look, if I can close this thing out, being a little more aggressive, that's what I'm going to do. And it didn't turn out. It still turned out for them, but the fact that they again, you talk about a team that had the right formula to go on the road and rush for better than 230 yards. They early on it looked like all Cleveland when I was watching that game, and then all of a sudden the Chargers just kept coming and ran the ball. I mean, it's not like Cleveland didn't run; they had over 200 yards. So both these teams' ability to run was impressive.
Yeah, Austin Eckler only carried 16 times for 173 yards in that game. Well, Brian, you being the big leaguer that you are, we're going to let you go so you can move on from off the bench from tiny little Hamilton, Ohio, to go join your good friend and mine, Colin Cowherd. So we wish you the very best on that show.
Well, he's nicer to me than you are. He doesn't second guess me the way you used to.
All right, my man. Have a great day. Thanks for your time. Tell Kim and everybody we said hello, and we'll talk to you next week.
We'll do it.
All right. Brian Billick, kind enough to join us and get his thoughts. I just love hearing the inside stuff about, things you decide ahead of time when you're game planning for a team. And I'll have to ask Brian about it some other time about, you always hear about halftime adjustments. But I'm wondering about, in-game adjustments. And I still can't figure the whole Browns thing, just like I can't figure the Bengals thing. But the Browns thing, I can't understand how Nick Chubb is carrying the ball 17 times a game. I just don't get it. They had so many moments in that game where they had Kareem Hunt, who's a nice player. I mean, Kareem Hunt's a really nice player, and he might be the best number 2 back in the NFL. In fact, he is the best number 2 back in the NFL. But Chubb is the second best overall running back in the NFL right now, behind only Saquon Barkley. And he's getting the ball 17 times? We'll ask Brian about it some other time. All right, we got lots going on today. Tracy Jones coming up later on in the program. So stick around. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time, and if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell's Heating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Sweeney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Sweeney, the original used car superstore.
The time is now. Football season is back here in the Queen City, and week 1, St. X versus Dakota West. EJE Train here with Chatterbox. It's about to go down. It's our kickoff of our official tour. Every Friday night you'll see us. Let's go. It's on 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Man, I'm telling you, this game is going to come down to the first guy that says I'm heading up. That's all it's going to say. One guy to say, you know what, I'm heading up. My first one. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better first one because Dakota West struggling a lot throughout the first half and beginning of second half, and then
Big time.
it's a party, it's a party, it's a party.
I know one thing. Ain't nobody does this better than us. Facts.
Yeah, this atmosphere was insane. Show was on point. Everybody had a great time for the first one, too. Bringing people together. Big shout out to everybody tonight that worked hard from Chatterbox and everywhere else to put on a great show.
This dude's legit.
And he's sweating, so you know he's legit.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Going to talk a minute about analytics, and I'd like to get this woman on the show sometime. Her name is Cynthia Freeland. Apparently, she does all the analytics for the NFL Network, and she's been asked a lot of questions about analytics and what do you do, and trying to draw some analogy. So here's what she said. She said, let's see if this works. She says, I use a map app to get anywhere. Says, I live in L.A., traffic's a mess. Says, I type in my destination, and there are several options with different minute and miles routes that pop up. Places I'm more familiar with, I'll use one. Other places, I'll do a blend of something else. The app is my analytics office. Does it mean it's always the best route? No. There are accidents or construction, etc., that made it look clear. But the point is, she says, I increase my likelihood of making the best decision for me, and I also learn the ways that the app and how it measures is imperfect so I can get even better with my own decisions. Says, look, there's a lot going on here. It's not one versus the other. Analytics and gut feel work together, and analytics are tools in the toolbox of coaches and staffs to improve decision-making, not a binary rule that anyone is beholden to. Okay, that's good stuff there. She kind of tries to dumb it down, if you will, from guys like me. Okay, fellas, if you go back to week 1 of the NFL season, now these are all very different scenarios, so her point is well made. Week 1, the Giants, with time expired, score a touchdown, and they have a decision to make. Are they going for the win, which would mean they convert on a 2-point attempt, 2-point try, or do they kick the extra point and send it into overtime? This was the first game as a head coach for Brian Daboll in the National Football League. He said before training camp ever started, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to have our players make plays, and we're going for it. He went for it. It worked. They win the game. Last play of the game, okay? You either win or you lose on one single play. We go to John Harbaugh 2 weeks ago, deciding to go for it. And down at the 1-yard line, Lamar Jackson throws a pick. Buffalo goes down the field, kicks a field goal to win the game as time expires. Staley over the weekend, the coach in the LA Chargers. We just walked through the situation. His team leads. They're basically at midfield. Cleveland's out of timeouts. 1:14 to go. 4th down. They throw, incomplete. Browns get the ball. Chance to win the game with a field goal. Cleveland misses a field goal, so the LA Chargers win the game. And then you come to last night. Josh McDaniels, head coach of the Raiders. They're 1-3. There's 4.5 minutes left in the game. So this one is quite different than the decision certainly made by Daboll week 1. There's 4.5 to go. After slowing down the Chiefs early in the game, the Chiefs seemingly are scoring on every single possession they have, basically starting at halftime. And he acknowledged as much after the game. It's a 1-point spread. They score a touchdown on an unbelievable throw by Carr to Davante Adams. 45-yard, 50-yard touchdown. 4.5 to go. They're down 1. They decide to go for 2. With 4.5 to go. They come up inches short on a run to Jacobs, and they lose the game by 1. Kansas City did get the ball back. Kansas City did have to punt. The Raiders got the ball back, made another weird decision on 4th down. You know, on 4th or on the 2-point try, they run it with Jacobs, and he comes up short. On the 4th down and 1, they throw it to, I don't know who they were throwing the ball to, Davante Adams or Hunter Renfrow. They ran into each other. And that's the way the game ended. They had a chance to kick a field goal and win the game. All right, fellas, with all that, there's a lot of hot air there. What are your thoughts on his decision with 4.5 to go to try the 2-point conversion rather than tie the game with 4.5 to go? Because it seems to me, if you don't believe in your defense, and that's fine. I mean, Kansas City gave you reason not to believe in your defense. But wouldn't you rather at least take the chance of being in a tie game, and if you could come up with a stop, if you could come up with a stop, you win the game if you get the 2-point conversion. But, you know, wouldn't you rather be tied than behind with 4.5 to go and the other team's getting the ball?
I mean, I get where you're coming from. The thing is, not only does he not trust his own defense, I don't think he really trusts his offense either to get it done in overtime. So that's why I don't feel like they went for the tie necessarily, because the rules in overtime, the new ones are only for the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if Mahomes gets the ball in overtime, then it's pretty much a wrap at that point. But if they go for the win and they get a stop, I don't know. It's really it's a tough spot to be in, because I don't feel like McDaniels really trusted either side of his team to get it done, which is really the root of the issue on this. You know, like going for 2 or going for the field goal, he already admitted that he couldn't stop Mahomes. So I don't even really see why there's a point in even tying it, because he knew he was going to lose.
Here's the thing in my mind, Casey, I don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, go ahead.
Brandon Staley, you brought up Brandon Staley. We know who Brandon Staley is. He's true to his word. He's true to his gut feeling. He's the same coach he's always been. He's going to go for it on 4th down. We saw him go for it on 4th down on Sunday in his own territory. Chargers survived that one against the Browns. If the Browns were a little bit better, maybe they probably should have won that game. It's a different situation with the Raiders and the Chiefs last night. I am somebody that always loves to be aggressive. I love it when coaches go for it. I love it when coaches take the chance. But it's something I talk about in gambling too sometimes, where you see something and you look at a line in a game and you say, "Oh, that's too good to be true. Do I want to fade myself because everybody's going one way? I'm going to go the other way. How do I want to decide how I want to make this decision?" And last night, the time left in the game was what I had a problem with. I like going for it on fourth down on the road against an offense like Patrick Mahomes. You try and win the game, but you're not trying to win the game with over 4 minutes left in the game, because Patrick Mahomes can come back down and score. They can score a touchdown. They can get inside the 40-yard line and kick a field goal.
And they had already had a field goal kicker who set a personal best just before halftime by hitting one from 59 yards.
Yeah, exactly. So you can come down and potentially have a 2 or 3 minute drive and still get the ball back. And look at what they had just done, going over the top to Devontae Adams. They had some success. They scored 20 points in the first half of the game. Granted, they barely did anything offensively in the second half. But the way that game played out, the only reason I had an issue with it, Tom, and I know I lean more aggressive. I guess I lean more new age than a lot of people, and maybe that's just because I'm younger and I enjoy it and it makes the game more exciting. And I also didn't have a vested interest in who won that game last night outside of my betting pick of the Raiders plus 7.5. Outside of that, I'm not a fan of either team. I like the excitement and I like the decision by these coaches now to go for it and try and win the game on the road in an environment like that. But with the time left, that's where you start to have an issue, because you're giving you have a chance to get the ball back. It's not like there's a minute and a half left, or 40 seconds left, and you're forcing Mahomes to have to take some chances. That's the difference. Because if there's 45 seconds left in the game, you're forcing Mahomes to have to air the ball out. You're forcing him to try and get the ball to Travis Kelce, who, like you said earlier in the show, had less than 30 yards in the game. It wasn't like he was going down the field and had 140 yards and 4 touchdowns. You're forcing Mahomes to have to make plays that we've seen time and again. Just ask the Bills from last year. You've seen Mahomes time and again do it with less than a minute left. But that's a heck of a lot less cushion than 4 minutes left. So that's where I start to have an issue with going for 2, down 1. And you look the other side. You look at Andy Reid going for 2, up 7, right? On the possession before that, the Chiefs score a touchdown. Gamblers everywhere are going crazy because the line is 7. You kick the extra point, you make it 8. Everybody's freaking out one way or the other. Chiefs fans, you're thinking, okay, just kick the extra point and make the Raiders go for the 2-point conversion, force their hand, make them go for 2, and then we're not even having this conversation in the first place. I think that was an underrated decision that people aren't talking as much about because it paid off. It's sort of in the same breath that we're talking about the Justin Tucker field goal to win the game on Sunday night for the Ravens. If Justin Tucker, for some reason, I mean, he's only missed one of those in his career, but if that field goal goes off the upright, I was listening to a podcast yesterday talking about it, and I agreed with the point. If Justin Tucker misses that field goal, the entire narrative about that Bengals game is different in fans' minds. It shouldn't be, but that's how it is in fans' minds.
Oh, I don't agree with that at all. Because look, Justin Tucker, the probability of Justin Tucker nailing a field goal to win a game, which he has done Lord knows how many times, right, is much more likely than you converting a 2-point conversion.
No. I'm talking about them as different scenarios. I'm talking about revisionist history of the Bengals game. I'm saying if. It didn't happen. We don't need to go back and talk about it. But I'm saying if the Bengals win that game because Justin Tucker somehow misses a field goal, we're not sitting here the last 2 days for 4 hours on this show talking about how the Bengals need to do this and this and this and this, because the Bengals won and it all worked out.
I got you.
So now when you look at the Raiders last night, if they convert, who knows if they still win that game, because there's 4 minutes left on the clock, and that's plenty of time for Patrick Mahomes to go down there and win. So that's in the end where I had the issue with it, Casey.
And Mahomes only took, 15 seconds to go down there in the divisional round to score? Well, how long was it? 30 seconds?
Last year against the Bills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was insane. So you can't leave 4 minutes on there anyways if you want to win. So the idea had to be we got to get a stop. And they probably just, if you look at it and if they gave them a touchdown quickly and they got the ball back and they had converted the two-pointer, a touchdown wins them the game and they have time on their side. Now, whether or not they were willing to let Mahomes just go down there and score right away, I mean, I've never heard of such a thing.
Well, the bottom line is they stopped him the next round. Yeah. So, I mean, look, you can split hairs here and you say, well, if we can point the two-point conversion, we stop and we got the ball back, we can run out the clock. But McDaniel's point was we had not stopped them the entire game. Well, if that's the case, wouldn't you want to take the chance, being in a tie game, at the very minimum, and the point after is a 90-something% chance. It's gone down recently since they moved it back. But look, Carlson's one of the best in the league. What's he made, 38, 39 in a row now of field goals, right? It's closing in on the all-time record. I don't know. I just – and there were people out there that gave me a beating when I was broadcasting baseball about not embracing analytics because George Will – said, I thought, the most insightful point I've heard about analytics as it pertains to baseball yet. Analytics, the best thing for the pitcher. Analytics, the best thing for the hitter. Analytics, the worst thing for the sport of baseball. Now, you can believe that or you not believe that. I don't know if it's the worst thing for baseball, but it has certainly changed the very complexion of the game. Another topic we got to get into tomorrow is this stuff with quarterbacks.
You mean roughing the passer?
Yeah. I mean, this is out of control.
Well, actually, as you say that, I just saw a tweet that the NFL was going to start taking a look at how that was officiated.
Yeah, because, I mean, last night
that was bad.
Was worse than the Tom Brady.
As a Raiders +7 holder, I thought it was a magnificent call, Tom.
Of course.
I thought the Stripes did a great job last night.
I'm sure you did. All right. Do we have Tracy Jones lined up yet?
We do.
We do?
We do.
Oh, my goodness. Let's check in with our main man, Tracy Jones, who is in some highfalutin resort in Mexico. Tracy, you've got the shades on. You got the sunshine. I assume that's the Gulf or the ocean behind you there. What do you got going on?
I got to tell you, Tom, this place is an absolute dump. It was supposed to be some 6-star resort. And I'm not liking it. Can you hear the construction over here? There we got the construction over there. There's a swamp right in front of me. It's a dump, and I'm very disappointed. My wife's disappointed. We've tried to get different rooms. We can't get different rooms. She's threatened me to go Giselle on me, and you know what that means. That means it'll cost me a few $1 million. I'm very upset, and I'll tell you who I'm mad at too, Tom, and that's you. You know, I had to do it. Listen to this. 6 o'clock in the morning, I get this banging on my door, and I'm going, who in the hell is this? And I yell, yes, can I help you? Yeah, this is Chatterbox Telemundo ready for your interview. Really, Tom? At 6 o'clock in the morning? What's the matter with you?
Hey, we have the crew. You know, look, they're getting a full day's wages down there, and I'm sorry they banged on the door so early, so that's on me. Tell me, because look, anybody who's had the opportunity, and not everybody has, but everybody who's had the opportunity to travel out of the United States, anywhere, pick a spot. But right. Especially when it comes, at least based in my experience, because I lived in Arizona for a long time. You could drive down to Mexico. You had a lot of direct flights to different resorts in Mexico. And there are beautiful places and very beautiful people. I love the people of Mexico.
Yes, they are.
But you roll the dice when you go down there a little bit, and it sounds like you rolled the dice. Did you do all this planning yourself? Are you putting this on Danae? Did you use a travel – what's the word I'm using? I'm thinking of.
Agent.
Travel agent?
Yeah, we have a special travel agent that we go through. And I should have got the one warning sign. As soon as we stepped off the plane in Mexico, we were greeted by our driver. And he says, hey, let me just, before we get in the car, because I'm going to take you to this 6-star resort, can you please put the mask on? So I'm thinking, really? That's what we're doing? So we put the mask on. I'm sitting in the back seat, and I'm nervous, Tom. I'm really nervous. And Danae's like, giggling. I says, Danae, are you nervous? Are you all right? She says, no, I'm all right with the mask. My ex-boyfriend used to have a mask on me all the time. It was not a big deal. She says, are they going to mix in some handcuffs as well? I didn't like that, Tom. Tom?
Listen, okay.
Tom?
You get there. First of all,
Yeah.
I've never heard of a 6-star resort. I mean, I'm
That's
not
what
the
I'm
kind of
saying
guy
was the
normally
first.
that gets to stay in 4 or 5-star resorts. You say this place is a 6-star resort. Is that unique to maybe the sort of income level a guy like you has and has access to that the rest of us don't even know exist?
It's a very special place. It's kind of a who's who. Before you make reservations, you first have to send them a W-2. Just to know that you have that income to be in a place like this. And Tom, I'll tell you, it started, and all joking aside, it started off really tough for Danae and I. We got on the plane. We fly first class, of course. And you have these people coming from the back cabin in to use our bathroom. That's our bathroom. And finally, I had to stop one lady. She looked like...
No, you did. You did not stop somebody.
Yes, I did. She looked like Oprah, a fat Oprah, coming in to use our bathroom. I'm thinking, ma'am, you're going to have to use your own bathroom back there. That's why you fly coach. I fly first class. We have special bathrooms. You know that, Tom. We have a bidet in our first class, right? Have you ever had that?
No,
first class bathroom?
No.
No? But just, you guys, the ham and egger, the 2 ham and eggers right there, have you guys ever flown? I know you've taken the bus, but have you ever flown on an airplane?
I've flown before. I've flown all over.
No, sorry, Tracy. I take a bike wherever I need to go.
Okay, that's what I thought. But please, if you take a flight, do not use our bathroom, my bathroom, please.
No, I wouldn't think of it. You have to know your roles and responsibilities, and you have to be able to earn that bidet, and quite honestly have not earned that yet.
So you get down there, Tracy, before we get into some serious topics, I just want you get down there. I mean, what you just panned there for a second, it looks spectacular. I mean, it looks like a beautiful day. There's the water out there, the building or the resort, and you're saying it's unacceptable.
It's just okay. I mean, this isn't a room that a Major League Baseball player should have. Should he? Shouldn't it be straight out to the ocean? I don't need this swamp down here. I don't need construction workers right here. Tracy Jones was not happy with his room, and he's tried to get it switched a couple of times, and Tracy Jones will go downstairs again and complain.
Well, what are you going to complain about? I mean, it's not like the construction's going to stop. Every room probably is subjected to the noise of the construction. I mean, they're down there trying to make a living and better their product. Where are you going to go?
Right. Well, I can go on the other side. There's a whole nother side, and they could put me facing the ocean. And that's usually where I stay. But, Tom, do you want me to go through a divorce?
No, definitely not.
I got to make a move here. Yeah. I don't want that.
So she's unhappy.
I've already done it once. Yeah.
Did she not have any say in this whole thing about where you were going and where you were staying, or did you do this as some kind of surprise, or what?
I surprised her. Monday was our 13th anniversary. And we've been together 20 years, married for 13. And so I kind of surprised her with this trip. And like I said, it started off good for her. She had the blindfold hoping for the handcuffs. But, we had a good time last night. 13 years is a long time to be married, Tom.
It is. I've been married almost 22. I'm well aware of that. Are you able to watch? I mean, they love baseball down in Mexico and all over. You drift into the Caribbean and you get down to Central America and South America, and Major League Baseball players are coming from all over the globe, especially Spanish-speaking countries. Are you going to watch the baseball playoffs today, or are you spending most of the time kind of hanging out by the beach, the pool, whatever?
Right. I did watch when Musgrave was pitching. And
what did you think of that whole thing, by the way?
It was rather interesting as far as a baseball nerd like myself and really a baseball nerd like yourself and the Ham and Eggert boys. That the spin rotation, right? The spin on the ball was increased, and that's why they thought he was using a substance. And I think it was his left ear, well, it was his right ear. And did you see there was something on there, but he never went to it. I mean, he never went to his ear. And Buck Showalter thought he was using some kind of foreign substance. And I'll tell you what I liked is when Musgrave turned to the dugout and goes, "Go F yourself."
Yeah.
I thought was touching.
All right, let me ask you this. And I jumped on the New York and looked at the New York papers yesterday because it's so entertaining when they start getting into things, especially when things go bad for teams in New York. And the Mets, most people thought they won 101 games during the season. My dad, I had him on last week, and he thought the Mets were going to steamroll the Padres. And, I thought, well, I don't know about that. Padres are pretty good. But the Padres end up winning the series. When you're a player on the Mets team and you're getting embarrassed here in Game 3 on your home turf, there was still a long way to go. I think they asked to check him in the 6th inning, if I'm not mistaken, and by that point it was 4 or 5-0 in favor of the Padres. Is that one of those where, the players are kind of like when it turns out that there's nothing there, there's no there, do they start looking down at, the manager and kind of thinking, man, this is minor league
No, I'll tell you what
here.
it was. It was a kind of way of disrupting a pitcher who's on a roll. I've seen it done before. Tony La Russa did that with Randy Johnson when I was playing for the Mariners. And Randy gets on a roll. He can get them all out, right? And all of a sudden, he started accusing Randy Johnson of doctoring the ball. And Randy did not need to doctor the ball. And he just tried to disrupt him from the momentum that he had when he was pitching. And I think that's what Buck Showalter saw. He says, we're not going to beat this guy. I got to do something to shake it up. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a pretty good move. I don't think he was using a substance, but he was on a roll, and he tried to disrupt him. And I know that's what he was doing.
All right, I want to ask you, as you look at this next round, the division series, best out of 5 that begin tonight, or today or tonight. Cleveland sweeps its series, taking on the Yankees now in New York. Seattle sweeps its series over Toronto, now playing Dusty Baker and the Astros. Philadelphia sweeps its series over the Cardinals, now taking on Atlanta. And then San Diego and the Dodgers, after playing 19 times during the season. Dodgers won 14. You're a Southern California guy.
Yeah, they did. Right.
Any of those series, one or two, that you're really going to be keeping an eye on, maybe more so than some of the others?
And, Tom, you made a great point. The Dodgers dominated the Padres. I mean, swept them, I think, in a couple of 4-game sets.
Yep.
I'm going to go with the Padres in this series. I think they're going to pull off an upset because, like the point that you made, the Dodgers have won way too many games against the Padres because the Padres have a pretty good team, and I think the Padres are on a bit of a roll. So I thought the Dodgers were going to make the World Series. I don't feel that way now.
You're kidding. You think San Diego is going to beat the Dodgers?
I do. Tom, just let me refresh you. Remember, I played the game and you didn't. So I see things that you people don't see.
Do you
ever tried this vodka? Have you ever tried this stuff? Oh, Sky Vodka?
Are you having it in the morning?
Tom, I'm on vacation. Relax.
As they say, Tracy, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, but that somewhere is not in Mexico.
What time is it?
It's probably earlier there now that I think about it. Right?
Yeah. I'll just keep my drunk on. I started last night. I'll just keep it on throughout the day. How's that?
So when you said all-inclusive, and you really look down your nose, and today we have Paul in for Brandon. Casey is here. You sort of made reference that guys like that would not understand that term all-inclusive. Is that part of it to your liking so far, short albeit being there?
Well, yeah, I think where they screwed up, first of all, as you guys know, I don't drink Sky Vodka. What do I drink, guys?
Grey Goose.
That's right. I don't drink this trash. So there's a screw up right there. It's been all right. I like the nude beach. The clothing optional's been pretty good. That was fun. The food, pretty good. My lobster tail was steamed, not broiled. I like it broiled. I mean, so a couple of hiccups. And the room, of course. It's been a disaster. But all in all, it's been all right. It's nice. You guys ought to try it once. Save your nickels. Well, you better save lots of $100 bills to afford something like this. But it is nice.
Well, Casey's getting married in June. Casey, you think you're going to pick Tracy Jones's mind or about getting married to begin with, and then perhaps a honeymoon destination?
Yeah.
Or have you already made that decision?
Well, we haven't made a honeymoon destination yet, but just according to Tracy and how terrible his room has been, maybe the price will go down there, and maybe I can come join him or go stay where he's at the 6-star hotel.
Can I give you some advice?
Yeah, go ahead.
Prenuptial agreement. That's what you need, Casey. Now, half of nothing is nothing right now of what you have, but sooner or later you'll acquire something, or maybe she'll acquire something. But I think having a prenuptial agreement is a good decision. It'll save you a lot of money. Tom Brady wishes he had one because he's going to get hammered. And I'll tell you what I put in my wife's prenuptial agreement is I put a weight clause in. So at the end of every month, if she's 5 pounds overweight, then I can actually file for divorce.
Casey, are you debating going down that road?
No, I think I'll stay clear from that. I appreciate the advice, but I'm gonna have to pass on the prenup because if I did that, you might not see me here ever again.
Paul, do you have anything to add to this at all?
No, I'm just sitting back and listening to the conversation. The marriage train is a little bit far down the road. My girlfriend listening probably hopes that I didn't say that, but
do you think your girlfriend is watching this show?
Hopefully she's teaching the youth of America right now and furthering the education of some first graders somewhere.
Well, it's interesting, Paul, because Tracy, Danae, a very successful working woman,
yes.
For many, many, many years, still is. And obviously Paul and Casey, in Paul's case, girlfriend, Casey's case, in his fiance, are working women, hard at work. That's got to be a plus, right? Is marrying a woman who's out in the working world?
Oh, 1 second. Without a doubt. My wife is actually more successful than I am. Wait a minute, I shouldn't say more successful because it's hard to beat a Major League Baseball player. She makes more money than I do, and I'm very proud of her. She started off making $6 an hour, and now she's well into 6 figures. She started off when she was 17 working for this company wearing a short little mini dress, and really progressed, moved her way up the ladder. And like I said, I'm really proud of her, and I'm really proud of the money that she makes because I love money. Money has never let me down, Tommy.
Well, I thought you being this money manager, do you manage her money, by the way? Is it shared money? I mean, you talked about a prenup because you are a highly successful financial planner, money manager. You are a landlord, dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of properties in around greater Cincinnati and northern Kentucky. Is your money split?
Oh, Tom, I would never commingle funds, ever. And that's fine because she does well, I do well. I just showed her the other day, this is an honest to God truth, I showed her this about 6 months ago, actually how much money I have in an account. And she looked at me and goes, how did you do that? I said, well, I invest. I don't spend any money. I'm a cheap SOB. I mean, if the truth was known, Danae picked up 95% of this trip. So, yes, saving, investing, having different streams of income. Okay, this is a success secret that I have. You have different streams of income. If you're a successful person, very successful person, you have 7 streams of income. You put it together, and it ends up a pretty good lifestyle. Are you going to ask me how many streams of income I have, Thom?
Well, I was getting ready to do it, but you beat me to it. Please.
8.
8 streams of income.
Yep. Hard to believe. 4th outfielder.
Hey, you wouldn't have been a 4th outfielder and you stayed healthy. Because correct me if I'm wrong. When I go back, and I remember these days, when it was you and Eric Davis and Cal Daniels and Paul O'Neill and Barry Larkin and Kurt Stillwell and Joe Oliver and all these guys, on those minor league teams you played with, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong on this, but I think I remember this. You were the number 3 hole hitter on those teams. Is that right?
Yes. Barry Larkin hit leadoff. Cal Daniels hit 2nd. I hit 3rd. Eric Davis hit 4th. Paul O'Neill hit 5th. Lloyd McClendon hit 6th. Joe Oliver hit 7th. I think Jeff Stillwell hit 8th. How about that team?
It's a pretty good team.
Did
you guys win a minor league Did that team win a minor league championship?
3 of them. 3 of them.
How important do you think that is, Tracy, all kidding aside? Because I heard somebody talking about this the other day about the Reds, and they've made all these trades here in the last number of months, going back before the season started, then during the season. And by all accounts, they've acquired a ton of really good young talent, but talent that right now is primarily at the single A, high A, double A level. There are exceptions to that, but most of them are in that group. Is it important for guys to learn how to win together at the minor league level, or is it just all about the individual player development?
God, that's such a good question. I used to think it was just developing players that can play in the big leagues. But you start mentioning some of those names, Thom, and I don't like to live in the past. You know me, I don't like to talk about stuff I've done or anything like that. But some of those players were pretty good. And those players, I played with those guys that you mentioned, Eric Davis, Paul O'Neill, Cal Daniels, Sabo, Larkin. I played with those guys in an instructional ball team, and none of those guys had reached AAA. Let me throw in a couple other guys. There was Tom Browning and Rob Dibble and Norm Charlton. I mean, there's some pretty good players right there. We had good time. And we used to say, man, if I'd have been playing in the Tiger organization or the Philly organization, hell, I'd be in the big leagues right now because the talent was so good with the Reds. And I think that the Reds are getting to that point now. They've got a pretty good farm system. I think they were ranked 4th by Baseball America. So I think the future, I don't want to be flip-floppy again because they've got a long ways to go. But I think they have some talent in that farm system.
Casey's dad just wrote in, and he has a question. He says, Tracy, are you trying to get Casey into a state of FSB?
Fatal sperm backup? Is that what we're talking about?
I think that's what you told me it was a few weeks ago.
Casey, it's not a big deal. I've had it since I've been married. I think Thom has it ever since he got fired from Fox.
I mean, you just got relief today, though, or yesterday, right?
No.
No? Oh, that's unfortunate.
Still nothing.
No.
Still on the bench.
You ask a married man that question. That's going to be the same answer over and over and over again. Period. So what are your plans today? Well, no, let me back up a second. You really didn't go down to the nude beach yesterday, did you? I mean, for real?
No, I'm actually pretty modest. I'm one of those guys that as soon as he took a shower in the locker room, put it on real quick. It's one of those guys. No, but Danae likes to go to those places and check things out. She likes to compare her husband to other, and I don't want to get into details, Tom. But as I told you last week, and my nickname in high school was what? The tripod. Tom, are you there?
I don't know if I'm here or not, or whether I'm watching everything.
Hey, Tom, how's your mother-in-law doing? She still can't stand me, right?
You know what? It's funny you bring that up because she finally saw the segment we did where you came out and offered for her to go. I think you said it was on eBay, where there are a number of Tracy Jones items, dozens and dozens of them, spanning your glorious career with 5 different teams, and that she could pick one out. So she said she's going to do that. And she had no problem whatsoever with anything you've said about her. She has no problem. She asked me, she says, where did he get that? And I said, you didn't say it to me. And so therefore, I didn't say it to him. I said, you must have said it to my dad. I said, and then my dad would go tell Tracy that. So she said that, if you misconstrued or whatever the case may be, her comments, that she was sorry about that. She loves this segment and you coming on twice a week. She wants to see more of it.
Okay. Did she get an item from eBay? I know she's really old and she probably doesn't know what eBay's all about. Was she able to pick out an item?
She wasn't able to pick out an item yet. She's going to. And then I told her that we would find a way for you to come out to the house, because I told her we probably couldn't get into your building. There are probably gates and a doorman and all that kind of thing. So we probably couldn't get in down there to get you to sign something. Unless you'd be willing to come outside and sign it. And I know you don't do much of that, right?
Well, tell her I'll meet her at the Party Source. That seems like a place that your mother-in-law might be here. Visit a lot. Hey, Tom, I got one more person that doesn't like the show.
Who?
My wife.
Why?
She says, she comes in last time I did the show, and she says, your humor is childish and corny. I says, you don't think it's entertaining at all? She goes, no, I don't get your sense of humor. And she goes, no wonder people don't like you. And I turned to her and she looked at me and she goes, what's really bad, Trace, is people don't know you're a really great guy. How about that?
I think it comes across, I would beg to differ with Danae. I think you come across as being a really good guy. I think your humor is fantastic. I think we're setting record numbers every time you show up. Our viewership goes through the roof. So I would beg to differ with Danae on this one. I think you're on your game on this show. Does she not want you to do it anymore?
Well, she doesn't. Well, we might be getting a divorce if I don't change rooms here. No, I think she's all right. She does her thing, I do mine. But she wants me to break it down more. Talk about Joey Votto's batting stance and how he can go oppo taco when he wants to. Things like that. She doesn't want me to talk about, tripod and having 3, girlfriends, homecoming queens. She doesn't like that stuff. I told her don't watch them, right?
Yeah, you know what? That's the thing. If you don't like it, don't watch. You're exactly right. Just turn the channel.
But
all right, Tracy. Well, I'm going to wish you well. How are you going to handle yourself, before I let you go, how are you going to handle yourself when you go downstairs? Because you're a savvy guy, okay? Right. When you go downstairs and, you ask for the hotel manager, general manager, right there at the front desk, right? Because you've tried the phone call thing, I would imagine it's not working out about changing rooms. So you're going to walk down there and you are going to say what?
I'm not going to say anything this time, Tom. What I'm going to do, and this never fails, it does when I'm pulled over from a policeman, maybe from speeding, I'm just going to flip the girl a baseball card. Signed. Maybe the Expos, I'm not sure. The Giants, I don't know. But I'm just going to give her a baseball player and say nothing. And you watch it. Bet you I get a change of room.
Oh, you might get a change of room. I'm not so sure where it's where you want to be. All right. Tracy,
hit that like button. Hit that like button. Boom.
Okay.
Smash it.
All right. Well, I will see you on Thursday. Have a great time. Tell Danae we said hello, and please be careful down there and enjoy yourself.
Hasta la vista, Tomas.
Adios, as they say in Espanol. Tracy Jones, kind enough to join us. The guy's the best. And he's at it with Sky Vodka early in the morning. Let's take one final break, and then we have our cherry on top. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time, and if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell's Heating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Sweeney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Sweeney, the original used car superstore.
The time is now. Football season is back here in the Queen City, and Week 1, St. X versus Dakota West. EJ Train here with Chatterbox. It's about to go down. It's our kickoff of our official tour. Every Friday night you'll see us. Let's go. Here's our 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Man, I'm telling you, this game is going to come down to the first guy that says I'm heading up. That's all it's going to say. One guy to say, you know what, I'm heading up.
First game, bro.
My first one. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better first one because Dakota West struggling a lot throughout the first half and beginning of second half, and then
Big time.
it's a party, it's a party, it's a party.
I know one thing. Ain't nobody does this better than us. Facts.
Yeah, this atmosphere was insane. Show was on point. Everybody had a great time for the first one, too. bringing people together. Big shout out to everybody tonight that worked hard from Chatterbox and everywhere else. Put on a great show.
This dude's legit.
And he's sweating, so you know he's legit.
Just about out of time, and as always, we end our show with the cherry on top, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Casey, you teeing this one up?
Yeah, so just last night, emotions got high for the Raiders after that painful loss, and someone got in the way of Davante Adams, and he didn't like it.
You know, before you run this, because I did not see it, but I did read about it this morning, and I still haven't seen it, and I want to make sure that I get to this for a cherry on top of the cherry on top. Please run it. This is Davante Adams, right?
Yep. And just got in the way of him, and he just pushed him right over.
Davante Adams came out today after shoving this cameraman. He was just doing his job.
And I put in the apology here.
Okay, you got it. Okay, sorry to the guy I pushed over after the game. Was very frustrated at the way the game ended. And when he ran in front of me as I exited, that was my reaction, and I felt horrible immediately. That's not me. My apologies. Man, hope you see this. And I'm sure that the guy saw it. And good for Davante Adams coming out right away. He made a mistake. He came out right away, owns it.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I were a betting man, because you look through the track record, and this is where in society I think sometimes there are a lot of people out there that think they've never made a mistake in their lives when it comes to judging other people and mistakes that they make. Is that Davante Adams has a track record, and it's a track record that through his career, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I might be totally wrong. I never remember him being anything like something like this happening.
No, I don't think so either. But I will say this. I worked in broadcast crews like that, mainly Cincinnati area for like the Bengals and whatnot. And they tell you, do not walk in front of players. Do not get in their way. Don't get in front of the tunnels. Not that I'm trying to put blame on that guy. It was definitely – he was probably just trying to do his job, right?
It says here he is a freelancer working for ESPN's Monday Night Football, went to police, who told TMZ they are investigating this.
Wow.
The guy went to police?
Again, this is in the article on ESPN right now. It just says the man, who was a freelancer working for ESPN's Monday Night Football, went to police, who told TMZ they are investigating.
Wow. That's surprising. That's big news, too.
Now, that might have been after the fact, before Davante Adams came out and apologized. And I don't know if this guy's looking to press charges or anything else. The whole thing, everybody take a breath.
Yeah, it says, I'm reading the TMZ article right now. It says the photographer shoved to the ground by Davante Adams after the game has officially filed a police report against the NFL superstar, claiming he was injured during the incident and had to go to the hospital. Wow.
What? He had to go to the hospital?
Authorities tell us the man claimed he was the victim of an assault. They say he told them he suffered injuries, though they were not thought to be life-threatening. And that he was later transported to the hospital. Cops say they are investigating it all, and following the completion of the probe, detectives will coordinate with the applicable city or state prosecutor to determine any applicable charges. Sounds like we got a situation on our hands here.
Yeah, before I make any rash reaction to that, they tell you not to walk in front of players. They tell you, don't do it. Don't walk through the tunnels while they're leaving. You got to wait. I'm really surprised. It didn't seem like he, I guess you got knocked over, hit the back of his head, maybe a concussion. Like, it didn't say what his injuries were at all or anything like that.
Litigious society that we live in today, it's just over the top. I wish now we wouldn't even have run that, because I I hope the guy's all right, and I hope they can find a way to move on. I hope and pray he really is all right. I sincerely mean that. You can see somebody fall down, doesn't look like much. Something may have seriously happened to somebody. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not him. But, jeez, does it ever end? All right, boys, enjoyed it. A lot of fun. Tomorrow we have the big interview, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. He's not the biggest name we've had so far, but I think he's one of the most interesting and certainly well-known around Cincinnati, and that's Dave Lapham.
Oh, all right.
Really excited about that one.
Let's go.
I mean, there have been other guys that, they might be more well-known across the country, but here in town, this is a guy to talk about the Bengals.
That's a man.
It's a man. And we're going to talk about his career coming out of Syracuse. Played in the NFL a long, long time. Looking forward to being joined by Dave Lapham tomorrow. Again, that's at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Casey, Paul, thank you. Brandon, to a lesser extent. A lot lesser extent. Boy, what a tired shot that is. All right. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.